Hello and welcome to this episode of Microchips. In this episode we are looking at a eBay bought Harvard 410T handheld CB radio. This CB radio was sold as 4 parts, not working. We'll take a look at the description in a moment, but this is the unpacking, and as you can see it's packed up very well for something that's listed as not working, or 4 parts not working. But let's take a look. All looks good so far. Nice case, no obvious damage on the case, everything's looking good there. Some weird smells coming off it. It's like it's polish or something. Can't quite work out what it is. Maybe the seller cleaned it with something before he sold it or something. But anyway, let's take a look at the listing. As you can see, I paid £17 for this, plus £6.50 postage and packing. The listing is saying the unit does not switch on when plugged into a 12 volt adapter. Well, that 12 volt adapter is for charging only. I don't think it can be powered up from it. There was no channel displayed, no output. The aerial is complete, which is nice because a lot of them have broken antennas. So yeah, let's take it apart and have a look. So we have the handheld. Let's take it out to the carry case. Antenna looks good. A few marks around the side where there's been a rubber duck antenna, but that's fine. All looks very clean. No real bad marks on it, just as the seller described it. Everything's looking good on there. Looks like it's been quite well kept. There's a name on the bottom of it though. P. Clark. Maybe it was somebody's called Mr. P. Clark. Who knows? Let's have a look inside the battery compartment. This should tell all. And yes, there's a little bit of corrosion on the top battery connectors, and some strange liquid round the battery connectors. Maybe he's tried cleaning it with something. Not too sure. There is a little bit of corrosion, but nothing too bad. I was expecting to see maybe a lot more corrosion inside. Or I was expecting to see it absolutely ruined with corrosion. But anyway, let's take it apart. I've already undone the screw on the bottom, so we'll just get the spudger. Got to crack open the case. Trying to be as very careful as possible. Don't want to damage the case unnecessarily. And there we go. Just to remember how to take these apart. It looks like it's clipped at the top. Looks like we might have to remove that top piece. Yeah. So we'll get the iSesmo again. Now we'll just crack off the top piece. It's held with a little bit of adhesive. Nothing permanent though. There we go. Looks like it's coming off nicely. Still this weird polishy smell coming from it. Can't quite put my finger on what that is. And again with the iSesmo. Just try and loosen this top piece without causing any damage to the plastic work. There we go. This should slide off over the antenna, and we've got the external antenna connection that needs to be loosened off as well. Carefully not to break any of the wires connecting to the battery compartment. And there we go. And under first inspection, everything looks good. Can't see any corrosion on the motherboard or anything. Just spotted a date code on the chip in the top right hand corner. I think it's 4381, so that'll be 43rd week of 1981. Which actually puts this as quite an old radio, and to be in such good condition, considering it's not supposed to be working. But anyway, we just loosened off the external antenna connection, and off comes the top. So let's have a look inside. Everything looks good, everything looks complete, nothing burnt up anywhere, no cracks, no obvious damage. All the switches seem to operate. Still can't see any signs of any liquid damage or anything. As far as I can tell, it looks like it's never been touched inside. So anyway, let's connect it up to the power supply and see what happens. So I already have my power supply set to 12 volts, and we're just going to clip it onto the battery terminals. And let's see what happens. A little bit fiddly to get that on, but should be okay. Turn it over. Flick the power, turn the power switch, and it comes on. Okay. Sorry about the over brightness there. There we go, that's better. Everything seems to be working. We're getting sound. We seem to be getting some sort of transmit. And the signal meter's moving, which is normally a good indication that there's transmit. We'll obviously need to just test it with another radio. And here we have a cheap frequency counter, because I do not have a proper frequency counter. Mine blew up a long time ago. But we'll turn the radio on and we'll see if this frequency counter actually reads the frequency that it should be. So we'll go down to channel 1, and that should be 27.60125. 27.601. It is a little bit low, but that could be that frequency counter. And channel 40, 9912, yeah, 991 is close, just needs a little adjustment. Little tiny adjustment. Back to channel 1 again, 27.601. That is hardly noticeable. And check it on channel 20 on the middle, 791. This should all be 25 on the end, so it is a little bit low, but hardly. It's nothing. It's nothing really at all. So, what was wrong with this radio? Why was it sold as spares or repair? So I think we need to test it with another radio to see if we're getting any transmission. So I have here my realistic TRC 1005 that was also bought as spares, not working, but seems to be working fine. And we'll do a transmit from the realistic, and there we go, we are receiving, very nice. And we'll do a transmit from the Harvard, and the realistic receives it without any problem. And looking up at my power supply, the current drawn on transmit is around an amp, which is, I think that's about fine, considering I think these radios were 2 watts output. It draws 0.4 of an amp in low power setting. And we'll just test the frequency counter with the realistic, see what that says. There we go. So that's the realistic showing possibly the correct frequency. just showing that the Harvard's just a tiny little bit low on frequency, but that can be easily rectified. There's a small trimmer near the 10240 crystal. We won't adjust it with the screwdriver in because I have not got a non-inductive screwdriver, so we'll just adjust it and transmit and see if we can get it close by to 125. Even if it just says 1-2, that's absolutely fine. I mean, that point is not going to make any difference. There we go, 0.123. That's good enough. That's good enough. So they're roughly in range of each other there. I don't know how accurate that eBay frequency counter is. It's probably not absolutely bang on, but two radios showing a pretty much the same frequency. That's good enough for me. That's absolutely good enough. Channel 9 switch works. Display on and off works. I think they put that display on and off to save batteries. Don't know how much it actually saved, but I suppose when you were running NiCad batteries. Let's quickly go down onto the calling channel. One thing with the realistic 1005, I always thought that bar graph on the front was signal, but it's not, it's battery. I was so disappointed when I found that out because I always dreamed of having one of these. Anyway, looking inside the radio, everything looks good. Now we've got it roughly on frequency. A little bit dirty in places, so what we'll do next is we'll give it a nice good clean up. So what I intend to do is lift the motherboard or the main circuit board out of the radio and have a look underneath the main circuit board just to make sure that everything's good under there, make sure it's nice and clean. So what we'll do, just to be safe, we'll desolder the battery connector and the antenna, and that will allow us to clean the battery compartment a little bit better and try and get rid of this weird smell that seems to be coming from it. So why was it listed as no parts not working? Well, good point. The seller had actually listed another one where he said he'd tried batteries in it, but on this one he said he'd never tried batteries in it. Anyway, desoldering the power. All I can think of on this is that the batteries just weren't connecting properly and he didn't go any further. I mean, to be honest, if he just persevered with just a little bit longer, he would have got this working and got a better price for it. And to say it doesn't work off the jack on the side, well, on the side of the radio it says charging port only. It's not for external power. Maybe that would be a good modification to put on it. It would be a small barrel socket, so it could be run off external power. Anyway, looking underneath the motherboard, everything looks good, just as you would expect. No damage, nothing too bad. Not going to pull it out any further because there are wires connected on the back of the board, so we'll leave those alone. what I've done there is I've just lifted the signal meter out just so I can give it a clean, because I noticed some dirt around the edges of it. So we'll just, with a nice cotton bud and a bit of foam cleaner, just give it a clean, and we'll just give the hole where the signal meter sits a clean, and then we'll go on to the outside and give the outside a clean. And the channel indicator looks like it's got a little bit dirty, so we'll do the same again. A little bit of foam cleaner on a cotton bud just to clean it out. And everything's looking nice. I'm really impressed with the condition of this radio, considering it was listed as 4 parts not working. It's actually in really good condition. So we'll carry on the cleaning with a bit of foam cleaner and a nice microfiber cloth. And let's have a look at this battery compartment. So there is a bit of corrosion on that top contact, which, okay, that's fine. That's maybe where the problem lies. But like I say, there's this weird, I don't know whether it's cleaning solvent or polish or something, that seems to be sat underneath each one of these connectors. A bit of corrosion on that as well. I think in the future I may put a barrel connector on this just to allow it to be run on an external supply. Because I did try some rechargeable batteries, and the rechargeable batteries I've got are actually too big. As in, they just seem to be fatter than normal batteries, so they won't actually go in. Which is a shame, but never mind. I will give the top plastic a nice clean. Some foam cleaner. Get rid of some of the gunk out of the plastic moulding. But all in all, this radio really doesn't need a lot of cleaning. So we've now assembled the radio, put the motherboard back in. So what we're going to do now is reassemble all the wires and put the radio back together again. Just trying not to be too long with the soldering iron on the connectors. Don't want them melting through. So reconnect the antenna wire, just being careful not to melt the frame. Problem is with gas soldering irons is that there's a vent that vents hot gas, and when you put your fingers near it, it's yeah, as you can see, I'm having to turn the vent away from my fingers. And we'll reconnect the positive. Now it's time to reassemble. Just making sure no wires get trapped underneath, especially where there's just one screw hole in the bottom. Right, now we need to get all the knobs and switches through and the external antenna connection. which is a little bit fiddly, but it's not. If we get all the knobs lined up first, get them all down, and then we get the external antenna connection in place. It should just slide into place. There we go. Put its ring connector back on. Or its ring nut, should we say. Then we'll slide the antenna through the top. Just making sure all the wires are not getting fouled up with the screw hole at the bottom, because we don't want to be putting the screw through the antenna wire. And we push everything back together with a nice click, and everything goes back in nicely. Quick look, make sure the knobs are connected, and tighten up that ring nut. And we'll put the screw in the bottom. Having to use my extra long screwdriver for this, so couldn't get that into camera shot, but here we are. I've connected the power supply up. Now what I've actually done here is I've used a dummy battery from the other Harvard radio I've got, and I put that in the first battery so then I could connect onto the spring clip. But I did notice that that top connection was not making a very good connection in the battery compartment, so I think this was the problem. I think this was the issue of the battery compartment and it not working off batteries. But then, you know, it was strange that the seller didn't say that it was that he tried it on batteries and didn't get it working. So I don't know, bizarre. But it is fully working. It is fully working. It's receiving, it's transmitting, it's near enough on frequency. Everything works as it should do. There's hardly any corrosion in the batteries, and the condition is overall pretty good. So I think this is a bargain. Considering the prices some of these go for on eBay at the moment. Now what is actually disappointing is that this was supposed to be a repair video, because I bought it as no parts not working, thinking there was going to be a fault and we could investigate the fault and repair it together. But sadly there was nothing wrong with it, or may just be dodgy battery terminals. And there we have it. So one final look over. It's all looking good. It's all nice and clean. Considering it's a near enough 40 years old. Possibly. Well, going by the date on one of the ICs inside. Considering its age, it's in very good condition. So we'll put it back in its protective pouch, and it can go alongside my other Harvard radio that I paid a lot more for. And we'll just have a quick look at the antenna, make sure it extends correctly. No sections broken or anything. Everything comes out and goes back in nicely. No sloppy sections. And there we have. There's my Harvard, the Harvard we've just looked at, and the realistic. Well, this was supposed to be a repair video, but it just turned into a refurbishment video. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this. I hope you've learned something, and we'll see you in the next episode of Microchips.